Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking with Natasha. I am here with Laura Kavanagh, the former FDNY Commissioner. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
You look so good.
Thank you.
I was just saying, when we were just talking over break, I see Laura 2.0.
I appreciate that.
I love it.
I loved the job, but I think the stress took a toll, and probably a bigger one than I realized. I'd gotten used to it, so it's not till you rest and really rest and then take a break and sleep that you start to realize, I think, how much it had taken its toll.
So you look great. What are you doing? You said you're doing more hot yoga?
Yes. I love hot yoga. I didn't get to do much of it in the job. I just move a lot more. I'm out walking and running and doing things. Obviously, I was running around a lot in that job, but you're sort of always sitting at a desk or in a meeting or at a press conference.
Right.
It's not the same kind of getting out and about.
And something else, I just felt you have to be buttoned up for the job, too. It comes with the territory of it all.
It comes with the territory. I'm naturally shy and reserved, so I think in a way that was an easy default for me. But the flip side of that is I don't think people really got to know me. It was easier for me to just be kind of in the job and not myself. But also so much of it is really serious all the time. There's just not a lot of part of that job that's light. So you actually are in a heavier place, I think.
Yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot of, difficult. You're talking about, difficult things that are happening in the press conferences, tragedies. I mean, it takes a toll on you.
It does. And more than you realize. And I think that's what distance does too, is when certain anniversaries of things come up and it still hits me so hard, I realize the weight and the impact on me at the time. But I think at the time I had to keep moving. So I didn't even think about it as much as I realize now, that if it sits with me this hard, this much time after, it actually hit me that hard at the time. I just couldn't stop to think about it.
So you're going to hot yoga. You're seeing concerts too?
Yes, lots of concerts.
Okay, what kind of music are you into?
I think my friends are going to have interventions.
Really?
Yes. I mean, even they are like, wow, I really didn't think this is how often you would go.
How often are you going and what are you watching?
So, I mean, I pretty much love everything. I love the symphony and I also love Charlie XCX.
Oh my gosh.
I love Tyler the Creator, Childish Gambino, Mark Reblay, which I don't know if you know who that is, but is a sort of performance artist who's kind of
interesting.
So, I mean, just so many concerts.
Okay,
everywhere. I've gone to other cities. I've gone by myself when my friends refused to go for the third time.
So you're going out. You are out and about. What's your favorite Charlie XCX song?
Oh, that's a really hard one, but I think it's track 10. So maybe it's not that
hard.
Wait,
that's my favorite.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding you. That's my favorite one too.
I will say, seeing her perform track 10 live, particularly the way she does it, where she is by herself standing under a waterfall, is so raw.
I think I've seen the videos.
It might be the most moving thing I've ever seen live.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's on my running playlist.
Yeah.
You're
same.
a runner too?
Yeah. Love to run.
Do you listen to Taylor Swift? Because there's the whole Charlie XCX Taylor Swift feud going on.
I listen to both. I would say I'm a more new Taylor fan than a Charlie fan. I've loved her for a decade, even pre-Brat. I don't think I really caught Taylor until after Reputation, maybe. Some of that's age. Taylor's a little younger than I am, so I don't think I was onto it when it first came out. Some of it is I think I like her more complex stuff.
Yeah, it's you see you could feel even in the tones and the music too. Track 10, I feel is so layered. It's so good.
Layered. I think some of what attracts me to music, I've always been someone who loved it. My dad is also super into music, so it clearly got taught to me at an early age, is it's a way of often conveying emotion that I think is actually more powerful than the facts, right? So when I go actually hear Taylor or Charlie, I feel they're struggling with being women in the world in a way that I find actually more revealing than if you interviewed them, they'd be very guarded, right?
Yeah.
But the way that they talk about what they grapple with, grappling with female friendships, grappling with jealousy, grappling with love and ambition and fame is fascinating to me in a way.
Those are all topics and that I think you had to grapple with yourself when you were leading the FDNY. I mean, you've been grinding since 2014.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think I realized I was grappling with them, but maybe my diving into music is a sign that that's part of my grappling with it after. What does it all mean,
Okay, so we just had a huge election here in New York City. Zohran Mamdani is the mayor. How would you describe this moment that we are in right now in the city?
I would describe it as deeply hopeful. I think some people would say it's scary. I would not agree, but I'd also say I don't find almost anything scary. I just don't believe in that. I think that's like our city is tougher than that. You know, it doesn't mean I'm putting aside some feelings people have about the nervousness of change or even what they hear from other people. But often when people tell me that they're scared in a moment, I ask them to actually like step off of social media and see if they still feel that way when they talk to real people. Because my family runs like absolutely the political gamut in every way, mostly very conservative, but also just the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
And we have great relationships, and you don't hear the kind of things you hear online coming from them. So I think I'm able to kind of make that separation, which is, I don't actually think we're in a scary time. I think that the noise can be overwhelming and actually like overwhelm our nervous systems. But I actually think it's hopeful. I mean, anytime you get a new start, it's hopeful.
Yeah.
What you actually, you know, to me, what makes me most nervous is it a new start, right? Like, what will we really be able to do? What will our city look like in 5 years? To me, I think about, it's just probably like a sign of the job I used to have. Like, how do we operationalize hope?
Right.
I know that sounds crazy, but like, what does it actually mean?
That's a great way to put it. How do you operationally do that when you're trying to see hope actually come into fruition, come into action? You survived 2 administrations. You came in, de Blasio brought you in 2014, and then when Mayor Adams came in, you were actually promoted, which is rare, but it's incredible that you were promoted. So you have seen transitions over
Yes, I have.
2 administrations. What's your advice for Mr. Mamdani and his team on transitioning?
I mean, a few things. Don't let people talk you out of the hope. They will. When you go through transitions, you talk to a lot of people who want to say something along the lines of, we've tried it before, kid, and it won't work. But the thing about new things is the only way you actually achieve them is to dream of something nobody's ever seen before and then try to do it. And you won't achieve it a lot. I mean, that's part of like being hopeful actually is about trying and failing and being okay with that. It doesn't mean you get everything, but I actually can't imagine a thing that we've done in like the world that's new and different, where it wasn't someone kind of like taking a gamble and saying like, I imagine this new version of this thing and I'm just going to hope that I can achieve it. And I'm going to try to maybe like sell other people on the idea that it can be done. So I think, you know, don't actually let people talk you out of that. But then a lot of it really is about running the city. I mean, that's the thing about this city that the reason I love government, but I think is maybe unknown to people. I don't actually think you can run government in a particularly ideological way. It is just a huge like behemoth of trains running on time, you know? So you have to balance like the couple of initiatives that you want to do that are about your legacy and hope and like not lose the faith there. But you have to balance that with the fact that like government just needs to run and it needs to work. And you need to get a bunch of competent people who simply believe in running things well to do it.
Right. So he's brought in a couple of members on his new staff.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in working in the administration?
I am not, but that is not about our mayor-elect. I think that a new chapter is calling to me. And I don't sort of know how to explain that, but I will say in my life, I've always taken these leaps that people thought were crazy because it called to me. And like going to the fire department was one of those. You know, people thought you've worked in campaigns and you're going to this place that seems not only so different, it's so operational, it seems so different than City Hall in so many ways. And I just knew like there's something about it that is calling to me. Like it's an interesting place, it's a good place, a place that needed some help at the time. And I don't think I was wrong about that. And so the fact that life feels like it's calling me, I think more to figure out how to like talk about my story, to I think lift up like other women's stories and in interesting and creative ways, like to say like just how does it feel, like going back to the music, right?
Yeah.
And like who are we as like just humans in this world, especially when things are so scary and disconnected. It actually just feels like the way I can best help like him and the city and women.
Yeah.
And so that's why, for me, I feel a different calling at this point.
So you don't think you'd ever go back into government?
Oh, I wouldn't say I would never go back. I loved government, and I think probably there's another chapter in it for me someday. I just think it's not now.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, a few years down the road.
So you are teaching at NYU, and you're also at the Y, and you're doing a lot of great works. You're teaching women about leadership, and who better to talk about being a leader than you, having led the FDNY first woman in 150 years. How did you prepare for that role in terms of being a leader?
That's a great question. I mean, no one can ever really prepare. I think I'd say that. I think I was as prepared as you could be, actually. And I say that in two forms, like just the sheer amount of time I spent in the agency trying to learn things. I never thought I'd be commissioner, but I was like hungry for information and to know the place well and to understand it and to be well versed on it. And so I was like a sponge. Yeah. I would follow anyone anywhere and learn anything from anyone. There are people who walked me through the manuals that probationary firefighters get when they start, and people who let me go on ride-alongs, and Commissioner Nigro let me follow him around. So it was like a literal hunger for information. Yeah. But I also, I went back to school and I took classes myself on leadership. I forced myself to start public speaking, which at the time was like mortifying to me. I never thought it was actually for that job. I just wanted to understand how people lead. I wanted to understand how we can do better, like how do we run city government better? So I was, in many ways, I think I did as much preparation as you could do. And I'd still tell you, it was just hard. And it was interesting. And there were a whole bunch of things I didn't expect, no matter how hard I studied.
It's a very male-dominated department. Yeah. How did you navigate that?
I think, one question would be, did I? Did I do it right? And I think you'll never know the answer to that. When you're first, there's 100 versions of being that person, and you just have to pick one. Yeah. And that's actually hard. I think some of it I have realized in the time since I've been away, I have so much in common with the fire department. It's funny to me now that people looked at me as so different. My family is exactly like the fire department. It's indistinguishable. And
in what ways?
I mean, they're largely male. They are largely tough and loud and loving and opinionated, and they're largely blue collar. My mom's from Flint, Michigan. That's where I spent my formative years and my summers growing up. And so the idea that good unionized work is not only important, but of what happens when it leaves and how that impacts men. Because in my family, it was the men that had the jobs in the plants and lost them and had to regroup, was really formative and is so familiar to me in the fire department. I don't feel out of place there ever. Strange as that may sound.
So why did you leave?
It was just time. It was, as you said, I think the thing I've spoken about least or is least understood about me is I started in 14 and I didn't think this was my path, and I never slowed down. Yeah. Often, literally, especially in those last 5 years with COVID and everything, I didn't take a vacation. I didn't turn my phone off. I kept thinking I was almost done because I didn't think that the commissioner job was one that I was going to do. And so I kept running at it as though it was the last mile of the race, and it kept turning out it was the first mile of the race. And so I knew I had a lot of conundrums with myself even about taking it. And even though I probably knew I would never say no because I had this calling, I just knew I couldn't keep going forever. And I really feel like I got so many signs that it was time to go when I did.
I feel like there's a lot of power in realizing that. Laura, stay with us. Yeah. Everyone out there, stay with us. We got to take a quick break, and then we will be back with Laura Kavanagh, the former FDNY Commissioner. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Laura Kavanagh, and we've got a live chat going, Laura. And David Horst, 800, says, hey, Natasha and Laura from LA. So we love to see our people from LA joining us. Do you get recognized on the street when you're walking around the city?
Not nearly as much as I used to. Okay. So here and there, I was actually at Hamilton the other day and somebody recognized me. That was the first time it happened in a long time. So I'm mostly anonymous, and I love it that way.
When you were in the job as commissioner, were people stopping you and then asking you a lot of questions and just kind of griping to you?
Yeah, they did. I would say, the thing about it that you can imagine as a woman is it's initially jarring because you're just not used to people approaching you. I won't actually say that 99% of it was not only not scary, it was usually kind, or somebody who had a question, I was happy to answer it, but it's something to get used to. When you're a regular person and when you're a woman walking down the street, they don't expect someone to sort of get in your personal space or expect that it could be bad. So it was something to get used to, but actually, it always was kind, actually, from New Yorkers. But I will say I like being anonymous. It's nice to walk down the street with my headphones in and be lost in space, you know?
It's like, are you in a different world, you feel like, now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't maybe difference not the word, but I think, and when we ended, we were talking about people leaving at the right time. And I think this is a really important lesson about leadership. You must always know, if you are a good leader, that is the title you are embodying. It's not you. So if you think you're that important, and like if you start to sort of leak over and think I'm getting all this attention and respect because of Laura, you've lost the thread. You're getting that because you are lucky enough to be in that job in that moment. And so that's an interesting and strange thing to be Laura when you're inside your house and walk out and be the fire commissioner and be recognized and be given this title. But I think when you keep them separate, it's healthy. You can make the decisions that are the best one for the job and the best ones for you. It's when people start to enmesh those two ideas and think like the reason they're getting all that attention and respect is because they're so important that they stay in jobs forever or they don't leave when it's clearly time for the next person to step in and learn.
In a ways, it's separating out the ego.
Yeah, very much so. And it's not to say you don't have it. It's to keep it separate, you know, and actually for me, because I'm so shy, it was actually a way to talk myself in to being more sort of dominant in that job, because you are walking in front of crowds of people. You are working with all men. You should speak more loudly. You should stand up straight in ways that are actually not natural. You know, I love to like sit like this, which is a very feminine thing to do. But you do need to be a little bit more demanding in a role that is so big.
Yeah.
But it's, for me, it sort of worked the opposite, which is that wasn't the comfort zone, but to think of it as a hat I wore when I stepped out of the house made it easier to step into the role. But for me, it also made it easier to step out and be Laura when I got home and then just think, you know, what's good for me and what's good for the job tomorrow when I'm back at it.
When you look back at the decision to leave, was it a personal decision? Was it institutional? What do you think it was?
I think it was both. I mean, like I said, and I don't want to go down sort of like a rabbit hole of religion here, but I really do feel at times in life that I get signs. And for me, there was just like this extraordinary confluence of events that I was just like, wow, all of the people in my life need me and I'm not there for them in like just the most acute way. And I haven't been there for them for a while, but suddenly it's like it's coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And as soon as I left, I could be there for them in these like really important moments of their life that also made me feel like I made the right decision. But I think it was also institutional. Like I felt that I was getting as much done as I could get done and that it was time to hand that off to someone else. You know, it didn't mean I didn't want to get more done or I didn't think there were greater things we can do. It just meant that I had reached the limits of my own energy to do it. I'd always had 100% for the job. And I was starting to feel like those days where you have 2 hours of sleep or you're going to DC 5 times, that I didn't have 100% for them. You know, I was feeling myself struggling to get up and do it. And because I'm a runner, I think like that is an operating model for me as well. You kind of know when you just don't have that last mile in you.
If you can push yourself before you get hurt.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? You have to think about that.
And sometimes you know, like you run too, so it's like sometimes you push and it's there. And sometimes you push and it isn't. And that's the point I think I was at.
I hate to harp on this, but I am just so curious. If Mamdani did call you and say, hey, I want you to be on my team, would you take the job?
I mean, I think that's a very unfair way to put it because I would have such a hard time saying no to a mayor saying he needed me.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, what I'd say to him if he called, I'd say, why? There are so many talented people in government, and
but
I know
you led
them.
the FDNY one day. You
It's
did
true.
that.
It's
and
true.
You know, you have that experience.
Yeah.
You've seen it. You know how a city works.
It's true. I think I'd at least argue with him about it. I would say, you know, here's who I like what do you think I can uniquely do that someone else can't do? And here are all the people I know who I think maybe are unknown. Like I think there's a lot of people who are in government service who are doing great things that aren't very public. I mean, I wasn't until I became commissioner. And so I think that's what I would try to say back is like, are you really sure that I'm the right person for the moment? Or can we find the person who is?
Have they reached out to you?
They've not.
Okay. No. Okay. It's it is incredible though, everything you've seen, you know, since 2014, you have been living in this world and now seeing you outside of it, but in a different capacity too, because you're still out there teaching leadership, teaching women these tools. Is there one thing that surprises you the most, like the biggest question that women ask you in terms of leadership?
I think the thing that comes up the most don't know if I'd call this surprising. I'd be curious what you think is the idea of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I think the thing maybe that I don't want to say this surprises me about it, or maybe that I'm very forceful in sort of saying I don't think it exists. And I don't, and you know, women, you get a reaction from women because they feel it. And I don't actually mean to negate how they feel. I think the way I feel is like this idea that it's a syndrome we all have is a concept I hate. I think usually what women are describing is not that they don't know how to do their jobs. That's rarely, if ever, been what came up. It's that they actually just aren't certain how people perceive them doing it, or if they should be more forceful. And it's often in new spaces, right? So they're saying, I feel weird in a room full of men, asserting my opinion. And I'm like, well, of course you feel weird. Nobody's done that before, right? Yeah. It's not that it didn't feel weird for me. It felt very weird and very frightening at times. That's not a syndrome. That's just like the facts, right? You're the first woman in that room to say something. Of course you're going to feel weird. And I think we like are maybe getting in our heads a little when we call it a syndrome. Feels like we're thinking about it too hard.
It's like you're overthinking about overthinking.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's a confusing way to put it, but I think I just say, like, let's not try to give it a syndrome. Let's just say it feels weird and scary. A lot of new things in life feel weird and scary, and let's try to work through the weird and scary and also normalize it. Like, don't think that if you are looking at other women or men, which I know a lot about them since I worked with them, right? So I can't just speak to women. It's like I watched the men work for all these years.
Right.
They are also afraid. So if you're looking around thinking that because of the way they hold themselves, they don't have fears or discomforts, it's just not true. And so don't let that stop you, as I think the way I always feel is it is okay to fear things. It's okay to feel odd about it. It's actually very normal.
How do you silence that voice that maybe tells you that, you know, you're not good enough or you shouldn't be here? How do you silence that, or at least make the voice quieter?
You need a couple of things. One, you need a really solid group of people who are not invested in your work. And I don't mean invested like they love you and they want to see you successful, but I just mean they don't need a job from you or they're not looking for
a favor.
Yeah. I mean, they need to have an objective opinion. And for most people, I think that's your friends and family, but it can be any group of people that you build in your life where they're going to tell you the truth. Because the really hard part about public life, and I'm sure you know this too, is you get so much thrown at you. It actually is very hard to tell the difference between constructive feedback you need as a person to grow and just noise. And I think people often maybe think it's more obvious than it is because they can sort out what they think is important. But when you get into these public roles, noise comes at you from every direction, and often people have self-interest in that. And so you have to have a group of people who can tell you the truth and that you trust that it's the truth.
That's really, really good advice because oftentimes, you know, people might want something from you or they have a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
Did you run into that a lot while you were
all the time?
commissioner?
And I think let's not describe that as negative. I think let's describe that of course that's going to happen when you have a job that has power. People need things from you, right? And they want things from you and they have their own visions for things they want to enact. And so you really need to make sure you have two separate groups of people in your life. And I think it's also maybe just important to understand, like I always asked people when they tried to give me feedback, if I didn't know this already, although I also knew it about them, but when other people say, how do you filter out feedback? I'd say, does that person have a vested interest in what's happening, right? So if they're a resident of New York City, they're worth me listening to.
Yeah.
If they're a resident of New York City and a firefighter or an EMT, they're worth me listening to. But I should also know what interests they have and then ask them to just state that interest and then let's talk about it, right? But if they have no attachment to this work at all, you know, then maybe they're just weighing in, right? And that's a helpful way to kind of sort through all the feedback.
To sift through it all.
Yeah.
What's your most favorite thing about New York?
Oh my God, that's so hard. I mean, I would say, I think it's the variety, but I say that, you know, I've lived in all 5 boroughs. I think it's very rare.
You have?
I have.
Wow, okay.
And you know, some of that is my start in campaigns meant that I was working in different neighborhoods. So I've also worked in almost every neighborhood on a campaign. And so I developed this like street level love for neighborhoods, right? And most of them, if I spent enough time there, I still have like a favorite restaurant, a favorite coffee shop, a favorite bodega. And that's actually what I love about New York is it has that. And if you go to other cities, like we talked about our friends in LA, well, we love them. We talked about Nashville when I was coming up. We love them too. But I actually don't find as much of that when I'm there. And so even when I have fun in those cities, I don't feel that like difference where like every block is a different world. And I think that's what I love most about New York.
It does, after a while, it just start to feel like a more cohesive place. I won't say small town, because New York City's never going to feel like a town ever, but it doesn't feel as big as
I agree. I actually always say to like outside folks who ask me to describe it, it's the world's largest small town, because it does feel that way in such a strange way. I think our own blocks are so tight knit because we are so on top of one another in a way most people aren't, that like you really do feel this, like, I mean, in my block, I feel an intense sense of community. Like we all know one another. We like watch one another's kids and feed one another's dogs, and we all like see one another at the bodega in the morning. Like there's nothing anonymous about it. But I could go to another neighborhood and walk down the street and be anonymous, and that's a great like contrast too, right?
Yeah. It's
like a bunch of little villages.
I love New York. Well, we're almost out of time. What do we have, Matt? Like 30 seconds left? We're 30 seconds left. We're out. Laura, thank you so much for joining me. So great to talk to you. People can follow you on Instagram?
Yes, Instagram and Substack.
Amazing. You're the best. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Until next time.